Hi, and welcome back. Today we're going to do a southern smothered chicken dish. I got this suggestion from a friend of mine who wanted to see another dish that included gravy but used chicken this time. So I thought about that dish. It's one that was a traditional dish that we had back in Georgia. Very easy to make, and we're going to get right to it. But before we do, remember, please subscribe. If you've already subscribed, please share the link with your friends and have them to subscribe as well. That way you'll get new alerts when I upload new dishes. So let's go ahead and go straight to the recipe. The first thing you'll need will be to have 2 to 3 tablespoons of vegetable or olive oil. You'll also need 1 to 2 medium to large onions, cut and sliced. I used a bunch of green onions sliced, including half the stems. I also used 1 to 2 cups of mushrooms. For my seasoning, I used salt, pepper, garlic powder, and onion powder. The amount of meat you have will determine how much flour to use. I used about a cup. Depending on the size of your pan, you'll want to use 2 to 3 cups of chicken broth or water. I also used 6 large chicken thighs for the dish. Now, let's start prepping our meat. I started seasoning both sides of the meat with salt, then with garlic powder. I then used onion powder behind the garlic powder. And finally, I used pepper, again, making sure that I season both sides of the meat. Now we want to flour our chicken. This process is called dredging. You want to make sure you use plenty of flour because this is going to determine the gravy that we have later on in the process. Now we're ready to heat our oil at about a medium to medium-high temperature. We don't want to heat it too hot or else it'll start to smoke and burn your food. So a medium to medium-high temperature is just right. Now we're ready to start frying our chicken. I used my hand to drop the chicken in the pan, but I don't suggest anyone do that at home. If you have tongs would be better to use for this process. But just take your time, drop your chicken in, and let it begin to fry. Now that the chicken has fried on one side, we want to begin turning the chicken to fry it on the other side. Again, using a set of tongs, just carefully turn each piece over so that the other side can brown just like the first side. You'll notice that the chicken is not cooking all the way through, and that's okay. That's what we want, because later on, during the boiling process, we're going to have the chicken to complete its cooking process during that particular step. So take your time, turn your chicken over, and let it fry just a little longer. Okay, now we're ready to remove the chicken from the pan. Once again, the chicken will still be a little pink because it's only cooked halfway through, but it should be golden brown on both sides. That being the case, go ahead and remove all pieces of chicken from the pan and place them in a platter or a plate to set off to the side to use later. Once you remove all the pieces from the pan, you should have 6 pieces of chicken, or however many pieces of chicken that you'll be using, fried golden brown on all sides, but still a little pink as they're only cooked halfway through. Now that you've removed all your pieces of chicken from the pan, you may notice some caramelized flour floating at the bottom of the pan. That's okay. You'll want to mix that in with the vegetables that you'll be adding because it'll add more flavor to your dish overall. I started adding my onions first. Once the onions were added, I wanted to make sure that each piece was separated and that they were coated with the oil at the bottom of the pan. So take your time, toss the onions around, separate as needed, and again, make sure everything is coated with the oil at the bottom of the pan. After cooking a while, your onions should start to look like this. The onions will have cooked down enough to be able to add the remaining vegetables. I started with the green onions. I added those in, and then after that, I added the mushrooms. You can decide how many mushrooms you want to use or how many vegetables you want to use altogether. Once you add all the vegetables, continue to toss and make sure that they're all mixed well. And again, everything is coated with the oil at the bottom of the pan. Okay, once your vegetables have rendered down, they should look a little something like this. Continue to stir your vegetables and make sure that everything is well mixed. At this point, you're ready to begin adding your liquid. I used chicken broth, but you can also use water depending on how you want your gravy to taste later on. Once you begin adding your broth, add about half the cup and then wait until it begins to boil. Remember, when you add your chicken, displacement is going to take place, so you don't want to add too much broth because it may cause your gravy to overflow, spilling over the edges of your pan. Now that your gravy mixture has come to a rolling boil, you're ready to return the chicken to the pan. Now you want to take each piece and gently place it into the boiling gravy. Now it's during this process that the chicken will continue to cook until it's completely done. So take your time and place each piece in the gravy. You'll also notice there's some liquid at the bottom of the plate that you stored your chicken. Pour that right into the gravy. That's only going to add more flavor in the end. You may start to notice your gravy beginning to thicken once you return your chicken to the pan. This is because of the residual flour on the chicken mixing with the gravy and causing it to thicken. You'll also want to taste test along the way. If it's not where you want it to be, you may want to add a little salt or some of the other ingredients that you used earlier. But always remember when you're tasting, be very careful because the gravy is very hot. Continue to stir your seasonings into the gravy until you get it just right. Now you'll want your gravy to simmer for about 15 minutes. During that process, you may want to take one more taste test, and if it's good to go, just simmer until you're ready to serve. Now you're ready to serve your Southern Smothered Chicken. I usually serve mine over rice. However you decide to serve yours, I hope you enjoy it. Well, it's as simple as that. I hope you'll give the dish a try. If you do, please remember, upload your dish to the comments section. We'd love to see how it turned out, and comment on the video. Let me know what you thought. If you have questions about the recipe or if you have suggestions about future videos, I want to hear from you. So remember, subscribe if you haven't already done so, and I look forward to seeing you again in my next video. See you later.